Coming up on First at 4, a church group from Massachusetts makes a trip to eastern Kentucky. We'll tell you why. And President Biden calls out Russian leader Vladimir Putin following a surprise visit to Ukraine.
Plus, warm, windy, and wet will be the general theme as we head through this week's forecast. The latest on how high we go coming up as Mountain News First at 4 starts now.
Dedicated to eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, the Lord's Builders from Millbury, Massachusetts made their first trip to eastern Kentucky this week. The church group's mission is to travel around the country to assist churches or groups that help others that need it. This week, the group of about 17 people is working at First Baptist Church in Hazard and a few other churches in the area on repairs needed to host flood relief groups.
It's kind of been one of the coolest things to get to go and help churches, and especially sometimes they're smaller churches, smaller communities, so they didn't have any hope. There's no insurance money. There was no help coming.
Frazier says they hope to help these local churches with their needs so the church can continue hosting people who come to help the community. Another situation that last year's flood has apparently made worse. Foster children are struggling to find homes. Officials tell us the problem worsened after the July flood as hosting homes were damaged, adding pressure to social workers in the area. Hope Hill Treatment Director Stacy Baca says kids already struggle when they are moved to a new situation.
When they first come into care, they struggle a lot with adjustment and PTSD because it's trauma whenever they're removed from their families, and then the adjusting of going to a new family and a new agency, new schools, having to meet new people, new friends, new teachers, and all those things.
Baca says placement has become a statewide issue. Some kids are staying in office spaces. We'll have more on this situation tonight at 6.
Well, it's going to be a tale of one system after another as we head through this week. Stalled out frontal boundary is going to provide us with the perfect kind of road for multiple chances of showers and even a couple of thunderstorms as we head through this week. Already seeing those showers out there this afternoon. Upper 40s right now in downtown Hazard. It's a little chilly out with the overcast and cloudy skies. Here's the picture from Buffalo Mountain in Perry County. Yes, the overcast is still in abundance at this point. Temperatures in the 50s in some spots. Look at Monticello at 56, Jacksboro's at 55. Everybody else hanging out around 50 right now at this point, and a little bit cooler in the parts of Southwest Virginia. Haven't picked up a ton of rain today, a few drops in the bucket, but we're coming off the flooding of last week. We just had that last flood warning expire, or was allowed to go here just before the top of the hour. So we are currently not seeing any flood warnings, but a few flood advisories remain for some of those creeks and streams out there. Most of the rain this afternoon continues to push on out east of Grundy now in parts of Buchanan County, and backing on out, you see most of this particular system is pushing on out, and we'll get a little bit of a break, but a few more showers possible as we head into the overnight hours. We got another one of those pulses moving through. So middle and upper 40s as we head into tonight. A little breezy at times as well. Then we got warmer temperatures than that on the way. Details on when we could be flirting with 80 degrees in a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thank you. A child is in the hospital after being attacked by multiple dogs in Frankfort. Frankfort police say the incident happened Saturday night when an 8-year-old child was reportedly attacked by 4 American bulldogs. Police say the child was at a family member's house on Elkhorn Drive when the attack took place. The child was then taken to Frankfort Regional Medical Center.
I don't know that it was ever declared life-threatening, but they were pretty severe. Have an animal bite, you do stand the chance of being charged with harboring a vicious animal, because you are required to maintain control of that animal, and at any point that it bites a child or bites an adult, then that kind of changes the view of the status of that dog.
Police say those 4 dogs were brought to the Franklin County Humane Society where they remain in quarantine. Well-wishers are visiting the hometown of former President Jimmy Carter. Plains, Georgia is where Carter attended high school and is now the headquarters of the National Historical Park that bears his name. Carter is receiving hospice care now at his home, making that decision after a series of short hospital stays. Jill Stuckey, a close friend to the Carter family, says she expects a lot of visitors to come and honor Carter's legacy.
We honor President Carter and Mrs. Carter every single day, so it isn't anything new. You know, they have done so much for this town, for this state, for the country and the world. So it's a typical thing for us to honor them every day. But, you know, over the coming months, we'll be doing some special things.
Carter became the country's 39th president when he defeated then-President Gerald Ford back in 1976. Carter went on to serve one term before losing to Ronald Reagan in the 1980 election. We'll have more on Carter coming up at 5:30. In a handshake that stunned the world, President Joe Biden arrived in Ukraine's capital city today to meet with President Volodymyr Zelensky. The trip was a secret detour from the president's planned visit to Poland, set to begin tomorrow. It was also a surprise designed to send a strong message to Moscow that President Biden is bold enough to vow American support for Ukraine in person and during a time of war. Laura Aguirre has the visit's highlights.
Russia's aim was to wipe Ukraine off the map. Putin's war of conquest is failing.
President Joe Biden calling out Russia's Vladimir Putin during a surprise visit to Ukraine Monday. Traveling in near secrecy, President Biden's arrival in Kyiv comes just days before the one-year anniversary of Russia's invasion.
1 year later, Kyiv stands, and Ukraine stands. Democracy stands.
Despite being in an active war zone, the two world leaders talked while walking outside, air raid sirens ringing out. In a visit to St. Michael's Cathedral, the presidents each laid a wreath for Ukraine's fallen soldiers. The entire trip highly symbolic, President Biden wanting to make it clear to his Russian counterpart that the U.S. and Ukraine will not be divided.
He's counting on us not sticking together. He thought he could outlast us. I don't think he's thinking that right now.
The U.S. pledge of support includes further sanctions on Russia and an aid package worth $500 million, but not the F-16 fighter jets that Ukraine has been asking for. The president is hoping to thread the needle between all-out provocation with Russia and committing American support for Ukraine.
We're going to be with you, Mr. President, for as long as it takes.
We'll do it.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
This U.S. display of unity with Ukraine comes at a critical time in the 12-month conflict, with Russia expected to launch a spring offensive and Ukraine planning to retake some Russian-occupied territory. Tomorrow, President Biden will be in Warsaw for that planned two-day visit with the Polish president. A 6.3 earthquake aftershock has hit Turkey, this time in the southern province of Hatay. The Turkish vice president said in a news conference earlier today 8 people at least were injured following the aftershock. Initially, the United States Geological Survey had reported the quake as a magnitude of 6.4. Of course, this comes 2 weeks after the 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck Turkey and Syria, killing more than 46,000 people. Coming up on First at 4, for some of us, President's Day is meant to celebrate the birthdays of a couple of historic presidents, but turns out only one of them is actually honored at the federal level.
In warm weather and rain chances back in the forecast as we head through this week. The latest breakdown coming up after this.